Yo, hey guys, it's Pop and Jacques Slade here. Back with another unboxing, and today we've got a little bit of history happening here on the table. Now, the shoe in particular isn't historic, but the story behind the shoe is historic, which is something that I personally like to share and something that I think you guys will get something out of. So just to get rid of all the mystery, this is the Nike Pegasus Turbo 2. It's the everyday sort of trainer for Nike, but that's not really what the story is. The story is about this box and about the limited edition version of this shoe. There are only 3,107 pairs of this shoe that are going to be released, and that's for a very specific reason. If you've noticed the sweatshirt I have on, you may have noticed that the address here says 3107 Pico Boulevard in Santa Monica, 3,107, which goes with the shoes. So let's get into the shoe right here. As you see, this isn't your normal Nike box. It has that same sort of Nike orange color, but you see the Nike swoosh is a little different. The word Nike is a little different. And then here on the box, it says Nike sports shoes are manufactured to the exact specifications of championship athletes throughout the world. Continued research and constant development are responsible for the athletes of the 70s changing to Nike, the 70s. That's very, very important. So this shoe has a very cool logo here as well. This logo right there, we're gonna get the camera right there. See that logo right there? If you don't know what Blue Ribbon Sports is, well, that is what Nike was originally called. See, Phil Knight, the guy that we all know and love, that is the head guy at Nike, well, he didn't want to call it Nike. He wanted to call it Blue Ribbon Sports. Thank goodness there were other people on his team that were like, nah, son, gotta switch that up. But enough with all the history. Let's get into the box here. So back in 1967, Nike opened its first store, although technically it wasn't called Nike back then. In 1967, they opened the first Blue Ribbon Sports store in Santa Monica, and that's where this shoe gets its inspiration from. Back in January, Nike actually reopened that same store, the very first store that Blue Ribbon Sports opened, and that store is now a running store. Well, actually, it was a running store back then as well. And as part of that launch and as part of the story around that, they're releasing this shoe, not releasing the shoe, but they're releasing this collab, I'll say internal collab with this shoe, the Pegasus Turbo 2. Now, this shoe is actually, again, an everyday trainer. So if you are a runner and you're running a marathon, then they have the Zoom Vaporfly 4%, and that's the shoe that you run the marathon in. This is the shoe that you train in. I think the major difference between those two is the Vaporfly has an actual carbon fiber plate inside of it, which gives you a little bit of more push and a little bit more rigidity inside the shoe. And I don't believe that this one has that same plate inside of it. They both have Zoom X, and I imagine that the more marathon version has a bit more Zoom X inside of it than this version, which again is your everyday runner, and you don't want to put that everyday stress on your feet of that carbon fiber plate. This is more of getting your feet ready for that run. But back to the store. So the store opened in 1967. It was a running store. It was a place of community where kind of people could come that were running. Back then, running wasn't as big as it is now. So it was almost kind of like a foreign concept for people to be running. Well, actually, they didn't even call it running back then. They called it jogging. So back then you were a jogger as opposed to a runner, which we call it these days. The store didn't last very long though. The store was only open for 2 years. It closed in 1969. So my thought is, and I don't have any proof of this, I'm just kind of throwing it out here. My thought is the store wasn't very successful, which kind of sucks because the store only lasts from 67 to 69, and then I think Nike changed their name to Nike in 1970. So the store didn't even last from Blue Ribbon Sports until it changed to Nike. It closed up really quickly. I don't know if just the money wasn't right back then, or the store wasn't doing well back then, or because Nike was all in Beaverton, or Blue Ribbon Sports was all in Beaverton, and the store was down in Santa Monica. So there's a bunch of different reasons why that couldn't have worked. I don't know the exact reason, but I just know the store was only open for 2 years, and then it opened back up again in January of this year. And it's really like a running space where runners can come, and it's a community, and they have these weekly runs. And that's where this shoe came out, because they recently released these on the Sneaker Stash. And they're going to release these again in New York and I believe in Chicago as well. These are actually releasing in New York this weekend. But if you're a fan of the Pegasus Turbo 2, these have that lightweight mesh upper on them for the breathability. And again, they have that Zoom X. You see they have that very sort of sleek style. They have that little tail on the back of them like the Vaporfly. Hold on, I actually have a Vaporfly in here somewhere. Hold on. So I don't do a lot of running in these just because this is like the pro running shoe. I'm running these every once in a while, and you see they have like this Flyknit upper. It's so good. These are so good. I've actually worn these more casually than I've actually worn these as running shoes, but you know, that's just the style of them. I like the style of them and I thought they looked really dope. But so these are like the running marathon version of these. These are the ones that you run with every day, and these are the ones that have a little bit more like the marathon that you want to actually get your marathon in on. So I'll be right back. And for those of you that remember I ran a marathon, this is my original Vaporfly. So this is how the shoe originally looked. They've obviously refined it. Look, still got dirt and stuff on it. They've obviously refined it quite a bit since then. But these have gone through the ringer and have been like my main running shoe. So yeah, I can't really wear these anymore. I just keep them now because like this was the first shoe I trained for a marathon in. So I just want to hold on to these always, just as a kind of like a, it's memorabilia. It's a memory for me. So that's why I'm holding on to those. Anyway, so again, these are dropping. They're going to be in very, very limited numbers. There's only 3,107 of them that go with the address of 3107 Pico Boulevard. Again, these are really good running shoes. If you haven't had a chance to try out the Zoom Turbo 2, I definitely recommend you try out, the Pegasus Turbo 2. I recommend you definitely try these out. They're very lightweight, very comfortable. The Zoom X is great. I have a pair of these as well that I run in, and I definitely recommend trying it out. At least trying it out in the store and putting a pair on. If you haven't, or if you're interested in running, this is a good shoe to start out with. Little details here, they have the BRS on the insole for Blue Ribbon Sports. Then they also have the one of 3,107 right there on the heel. On the left heel, it just has running. I'm not sure why they picked the orange. I imagine it's because of the Nike box. That's why they went with the orange on this colorway. But they also have a hoodie that looks really, really dope that they have that goes along with this collection. And they also did a Cortez, which they released along with this collection, which was the shoe that they were running, the shoe that they were jogging in back then was the Cortez. There's a history of the Cortez that is totally removed from the way we look at the Cortez in Los Angeles. It was an actual running shoe way back in the 70s, but it definitely grew out of that and turned into a lifestyle sneaker for a lot of people here in Cali. Anyway, with that being said, just wanted to give you guys a quick look at these. Definitely check this out. Again, they're gonna release on sneakers. It'll be like a sneaker stash thing. I know they're doing one in New York this weekend, and then I believe they're going to Chicago the weekend after that, and I believe they're also going to go to Virginia or something like that. Just kind of bring back the energy that Blue Ribbon Sports had back in 1967 when Jeff Johnson came down and opened it up. And I believe Jeff Johnson is like the 4th or 5th employee at Nike, and he's actually still there to this day, which is something I think is really dope. Anyway, as always, guys, I appreciate you. Make sure you like, favorite, and subscribe if you like what you see here. And why don't you go ahead and turn on those notifications if you really want to see more content just like this. I'm Jacques Slade, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace. Excuse me. What the French Open is going on?